Welcome to the Communication Mastery Podcast with me, Mark Burlinson. We're tackling miscommunication with the power of understanding. We're growing our mastery of the foundation of teamwork and of all relationships. And so I want to ask you to help me spread the word about stronger, more effective communication by inviting some friends to listen along with you. Then discuss what you've learned and give me your feedback. What would you like to hear from us in future episodes so we can make this podcast even more effective? Thanks for joining me. Let's jump in. This week, we want to talk about how communication makes teams exceptional. Because we all want to have our teams be as effective as possible, don't we? But so often we settle for second best or mediocre in our teamwork, when really investing a little in communication could really make a difference. It was Simon Sinek who got me thinking about this, because recently he interviewed Professor Vanessa Druskat. She's an expert on high-performing teams. And she spent decades studying what it is that separates those exceptionally great teams from average teams. And it was surprising what she found, really, because what she found in her research was that it's not the individual talent on the team that really makes the difference. It's the environment that the team operates in that causes that team to be exceptional. So the highest performing teams have very clear goals, of course. They also have clearly defined roles. That really goes without saying, although we often miss that. Sure, that's important, but both of those are pretty standard business stuff, aren't they? But the teams, she found, become exceptional when they shape how people interact in three specific ways, three specific areas. And communication is central to all three of these areas. It was quite a surprise to me, but in a way it wasn't a surprise, because the reason I focus on communication is because I understand how central it is to our business success. So the first area that causes a team to be exceptional rather than average is that they help each other succeed. So the team help each other succeed. Get to know your teammates' strengths and get to know what they need and begin to understand some of their quirks so that you can help your teammates succeed. We often say that team, T-E-A-M, stands for together everyone achieves more. And it's the together part of that starts it all off. We have to be seeking each other's success in order for the team to be exceptional. And of course, communication IQ is a great tool to enable us to recognize each other's strengths, but also to understand each other's needs. When we've looked only at strengths, we don't always get to look at the needs that go with those strengths. We all have weaknesses as well as strengths, and it's fairly well established that if you focus on fixing weaknesses, you won't succeed as much as you will if you focus on releasing strengths and valuing strengths. However, the best of all, Professor Druskat found, is when you can have the strengths valued and made room for and welcomed into the teamwork, along with an understanding of the needs from others. And that is exactly what communication IQ provides us when we study our own profiles, when we use the success communication key that we use when we're coaching business teams, and we identify what are the specific areas that I can be most beneficial to you so that we as a team thrive and not just survive. So that's one area, to show care and respect in those everyday interactions. We've talked before about the need for eye contact and for active listening. So we're listening fully, giving feedback, making sure that we've understood correctly and not just waiting to reply from our own perspectives. Giving thoughtful feedback that I've taken the time to consider. Is this helpful? Does this move us in the direction we want to go? Is this something that's just based in my own opinion? Or is this something I can put some facts to or some specifics to that will help this person to improve? So when we answer the filter question of each person's preferred languages, when we meet the need from others and encourage their passion and validate their key strength, all of those things play into successful helping each other succeed. Small gestures that are made in that process really signal belonging to a person. And so that unlocks willingness in each person to share their best ideas, to share their best inputs. When we feel like we belong, when we feel like we fit, then something inside of us opens up and comes alive, and the very best that's in there comes out to be combined with the best of the others on the team, so that together we become exceptional. It's beautiful when you see it happen, and so frustrating when people don't recognize how powerful communication can be for unlocking that quantum leap in team effectiveness. So teams that are exceptional help each other succeed. Second area is that teams that are exceptional make sense of things together. So they're regularly checking in with each other. What's working? What needs to change? How can I adapt to better integrate my personal passions, my personal strengths, my personal contributions, integrate that with the rest of the team? How can I bring parts of what I have to offer that are needed now, while withholding the parts that are going to be less helpful in this moment? Those kinds of conversations that we have internally and with each other. Regular check-ins are so vital to a team becoming exceptional. And you've got to balance realism with optimism. We have to have the conversations of what's not going well, but we also have to have the conversations of here's where we can go. And different ones of the communication languages are different, have different contributions to both of those conversations. Several of the languages can identify what's not going so well. Several others of the languages can also say, this is what we can achieve, this is how we can improve, this is what we can make better. And so when those languages team up and work together, then the team becomes exceptional. We want to create space for honest conversations so that we don't turn minor issues into big obstacles. And watch out for the distress flares, both in yourself and in others, so that any area where a language isn't being welcomed or isn't being made room for can be addressed before it becomes a roadblock to progress. And so I've said this many times before, but it bears repeating again. Understanding your own distress flares so you can recognize them quickly and early is such a big gift to improving your communication mastery. Then being able to recognize distress flares in others is a vital second part to that same process, where you're able to be meeting a cry for help before it becomes a shout. You're able to identify it early so that it's easy to tackle. So teams that are exceptional help each other succeed. They make sense of things together. And then thirdly, they're not just a team to themselves. They're not siloed. In other words, they look outside the team. So proactively, they're seeking new ideas. They're seeking fresh perspectives. They're seeking other resources that they don't already have. They're looking for inputs that will add to their resourcefulness. They're looking for inputs that will give them contrarian insights. And so they assign people you might call ambassadors to go outside the team and bring fresh insights back into the group. They need to avoid that mentality that can so often creep in with a team of we're fine just as we are, everything's going well, and that in the end leads to stagnation. If a body of water has an inflow and an outflow, then it's healthy. But if it's got only inflow or only a little bit of outflow, then it's a swamp. It becomes toxic. And we don't want that kind of stagnation in our teams. We want to have exceptional teams, not just adequate ones. In those areas of looking for fresh insights, and also of challenging the status quo, as well as being resourceful, bringing fresh resources to the table, there are several of the communication languages that are really valuable in those settings. The mover language, of course, is great at seeing what could be improved. The producer language is great at resourcefulness, making the most of what we have and finding fresh resource from unlikely places. And then the contemplator language is good at digging out truth and insight and understanding that the other languages would miss. Those languages working together have to work at working together, but they're a powerful team when they do. So exceptional teams look outside the team. How do we get to exceptional from average? Well, if you're the leader of the team, you need to be the culture manager for your team. So you need to define norms that create these three environments for the team to succeed, and then be consistent in enforcing them. Watch out for some of the traps that we've talked about. But of course, not all of us are leaders. If you're a member of a team, but you don't have a leadership title on the team, here's what you can do. You can model the behavior that you would like to see grow. You can give your full attention. You can share your insights generously. You can invite others in to give their input. Draw out what they have to offer. By learning the 7 communication styles, you have tools in your tool belt that you can use to do all of those things. To give full attention in a way that a person needs it. To share generously your insight in a way they can receive it, but also to invite others in, recognizing that they are different from you and have something fresh to offer. As you know from listening to the podcast, my passion is to see exceptional teams in small businesses and in mid-sized businesses, and places where too often the team is what it is and we don't expect there to be growth or improvement. That's the reason I wrote my business communication parable. It's an ebook that you can download. And so you can click the link in the show notes if you'd like a copy of that, if you don't already have one, or maybe download a copy to share with a friend. It talks you through how this can make such a difference. Understanding communication enables a team to thrive, flourish, and become exceptional. So take a read of that and then let me know what you think. Give me feedback. Share this episode with a friend who needs to hear what we've just talked about. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. It would mean a lot to me if you'd rate and review the podcast so it helps more listeners to find us. But also, would you give me your feedback on things you'd like to hear about in future episodes? And remember to share the episode with a friend if you see something that would benefit them as well. You can reach me with feedback through my website at markburlinson.com. Just click on the contact button and send me a message. I respond to everyone personally, and I really want to hear from you. So thank you again for listening, sharing, reviewing, and giving me your feedback.